Hey, Big Daddy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm peachy. They put your little soundproof little room there. Is that a round room with the
Uh,
padded walls?
it's yeah, it's also used as my asylum room. When they can't find my straight jacket, they throw me in here.
That's
You're looking
that's good.
good, son. I wore my ball cap today too because I knew you would be wearing one.
Well, I just came in from shoveling stone, so I had to break off for a second. I got myself a little bubbly water, and I'm ready to go.
Frothy beverage is never bad, especially when you've been doing a lot of work. Listen, man, I
Yeah,
appreciate your time taking time out to talk with us.
I
We're going to do
appreciate
this like
you taking
we've done
time.
a
So,
radio show before. I'm going to talk with you. We're going to learn a little bit about your life. Then we're going to play your whole album, and we're going to talk about it's. I'll say things like it debuted this past Friday because it debuts on the 8th, and we're
okay,
running the show on the 10th. So that's
all
why
right.
I'll say things like that.
Well,
You'll know where we are. Uh,
thanks, Rick. I didn't know you're
uh,
doing all that.
I want you just to talk because we've got a lot of new people in the audience, a lot of younger people that are joining us now. I want you to talk about your early influences, music around your house, things like that that influenced your bands. I mean, I grew up listening to Merle Haggard or, whatever it might be, and just dwell on it. Just, you don't have to wait
Yeah.
for me to ask you a question. And then what I'll do is I'll break away and play the album. Okay? And we'll talk about
Okay.
the cuts, talk about your influences on the cuts, and, that kind of good stuff.
All right.
Um, let's get things going here. I'm going to do it like we're just introing a show. Welcome you, and we'll just play it by ear because we are able to edit, which makes it a wonderful thing.
Safety net.
All right,
That's
here we
good.
go. Welcome to the second hour of Smokin' Bluz. I'm Rick Ballew, and Zooming with me right now is my friend Albert Cummings. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you?
Doing real good. I think the first time you and I interviewed was back around 2004, maybe 2005. So it's been a while. I think you were about 12 or 13 then. I'm not sure, but it's been a while. And you've
Yeah.
got a brand new album that debuted this past Friday, April the 8th, called 10, which I assume is because it's the 10th album you've put out.
It is. It's the
Yeah, it
10th.
is.
It named
Yeah.
itself.
Um, Tell me what's been going on a little bit with your life. I know you got this new album out. I'm looking at your tour schedule. You seem pretty busy. So, what you got planned for the road? Where are you going?
Well, the album's opening up a whole mess of new doors for me, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm really excited about it. And the website only goes out so far with dates, but we are starting to get packed. We are getting really full with schedule wise, and we are going everywhere and anywhere. And I'm just thrilled about it because finally in a position in my life where I'm uh, my two boys are kind of grown and they don't need pops around anymore, so to speak. So I get a chance to kind of go out and do what I wanted to do and what I've wanted to do for the last 25 years,
Yeah,
So I was out with BB King once for 6 weeks, and I had my youngest son was about probably 7 or 8, and I came home from that 6 weeks, and I could notice that he had grown like a half an inch, and I was like, that can't happen. It just
yeah.
can't happen with me. So I've totally, I've had the brakes on this for a long time. I've had a lot of opportunities to go and chase and run with it, and I've just been kind of like, trying to keep my dad thing as the most important thing. And
Family
my boys
first.
now, man, they're ready to kick me out. So,
uh, let's go
and I'm
back. Let's go back to your childhood. You're talking about your children. What was the first instrument you picked up and played? Was it in school or where do you
yeah,
go?
my first instrument was a trumpet.
Mine too.
Yeah, and I remember in I think it was fourth grade. they'd put you in a music room and they'd let you all the little, the tuba, the trumpet, the saxophone, all the instruments were in the room. I remember that. And man, I thought the trumpet was the coolest of all of them. So, they didn't have a guitar in there. They didn't have anything like that. So, it's like, so I grabbed the whole of that trumpet and I did really well with that. And I played trumpet until I think 11th grade in high school. I've been the marching band and I was in all that stuff. And I learned to read music with it and everything with the trumpet. But
right.
I never tried to do that with the guitar, because that would just about ruin me and where I come from and what I do with the guitar. If you're thinking, you're stinking, in my opinion. And if you're reading what somebody else wrote and what somebody else played and what somebody else thought about. I don't want to do that. I want to be my own thing. So I could probably still read stuff, but I couldn't sit with a guitar and beat it. I have friends that are that can do that, and it's very impressive. But it serves its purpose, to me, it's like there's two types of musicians. There's creators that create the music, create something that's never happened, never been there before, and then there's performers. And the performers perform what the creators created. So in the world of music, I would guess it's probably 98% performers. Everybody's, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to make a paycheck. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
I have friends that can cover songs right to the T, any genre, any style, or whatever. But I'm not that guy. So
when did you pick the guitar up?
Oh, my father was a pretty distinguished guitarist in his day. He played in a small band, and I was born in '67, and he was giving it up at that point. So I never really got to see the band in its heyday. But there was always, he was like Moonlight in Vermont and Stardust and all the old classic songs. That's where he was, and where he played and where his mindset was. And when I was a little kid, there was always a guitar around the house, right? There's always one out. And I think it's a great thing to leave out for kids or for anybody, because if it's convenient and you can grab a hold of it, your tendency to grab it and just fool around with it for a few seconds is better than if it's in a case in the closet and you got to go move stuff to get to it. And that guitar was always out there, and it always was telling me, you can't play me. You can't. and it was right for a long time. And when I was younger, I was a big kid, but I never could get my hand around that neck. Right. It was the action. I remember that it was an acoustic guitar my father left out, and you could park a truck underneath the strings. It was like you had to, to get that. And, think about my dad now. It's probably why he left it. You know what I mean? It's probably,
I like that.
So anyways, my father had a friend. His name was Truman McLean, and he was like an uncle to me, kind of like. And he was messing around with a 5-string banjo one day. We were at this barbecue picnic or something like that. He was messing around with that thing, and he could hardly play it, but he could make some sounds with it. And he said, "Why don't you give this a try, Albert?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, I don't know anything about banjo, but I was into bluegrass, and I was into country music, and I was into all that stuff." I said, so I held it, and the first thing I noticed is I could fit my hand right around that neck, and I was inspired. So he said, "Here," he says, "I want you to go home." And he said, I remember the roll. It was 3-2-5-1, 4-2-5-1 was the picking of the strings, 3-2-5-1, 4-2-5-1, 3-2-5-1, 4. And he was trying to get that lick down, and it was just a roll of the fingers. He was 60 years old at that point or something, and he was like just starting to play it, and he really never had any finger agility before. So it was probably a little harder for him than it was for a young kid to grab it, because I don't know, the young kids, I was a little more nimble, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know now at my age that I was more nimble back then. So anyway,
we all were.
So I took it home, and I saw him the next day. He says, "How'd you do with that?" And I just ripped that off, and he's like, He said, I've been trying that for months. He says, I can't get that down. He said, well, here, he said, he gave me this little course called Bill Blaylock Learn 5-String Banjo or something. There's a 3-course booklet, 3 little booklets, like nothing fancy about them at all. They look homemade almost. And he gave me that book, and you didn't have anything to listen to or anything. You had to read the tablature for the banjo, and you had to follow that. Well, he came back in about a week, and I was ripping through all the stuff in that book. I just took right to it. And I loved it because my father couldn't do it, right? He couldn't touch it. He couldn't do anything with a banjo. But my father loved it because he could play a little rhythm guitar behind me, and we'd do little things like that. And, and if there was another picnic, he'd bring me out, show me off, push me out there, and he'd play behind me. So I just took that. But when I was about 15, I was able to start getting my hand around that neck. And my father was the type of, he'd show you once, maybe twice. He might even show you a third time, but don't ask him for any more, because, he'd literally be like, it's kind of old school. So he'd be like, yeah, you're not going to get that. But he'd say that, I think, to challenge me. I don't think he was trying to be mean. I think at the time he thought he was mean. But as I look back now, the older you get, the smarter your parents become.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I think he was just challenging me. And I started to play that guitar a little bit. And I'm not kidding. I learned the basic chords, right? Basic, first position hand chords down here. And then I got on the bar chords, and then I got into a little of this, and and my father with his old band, he had an agreement with all the other 3 guys that if any of their kids got married or there was a party or anything, they were automatically the house band. The kids never had a chance. They were the band. So I'd get to see them play, but more so, there'd always be a picnic or something. Back then there was always more of that stuff, right? Family around and.
Right.
And so he'd have all his buddies up that maybe weren't in his band, but people that played music, and there'd be 6, 8, 10 guys sitting around the kitchen table, all with instruments. You'd have a few guitars, maybe a saxophone, maybe some guy with a strumming banjo or mandolin or something, and they'd sit there and play music. And I got to hear that, and I got to feel that as a kid. And of course, I'd ask, what is that chord? Or, how can I participate? How can I get into this? And unfortunately, they were so advanced. They're like, my father had a guy that played, his name was Howie Mullaney, and he played rhythm guitar, and he knew chords like I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just, every chord you could imagine reaching, and he'd try to show me the chord. He'd tell me what it was, but it was no way for a young beginner to grab these concepts, these chords. These were advanced playing. And I only wish Howard was around now, because I could go and talk to him, and he had my father had another friend that played like fingerstyle guitar and a little bit of slide, but he played that Chet Atkins type stuff, and he'd try to show me, and I was like, it was just too advanced. You can't grab that stuff. So it can frustrate somebody, you got to start slow with that. And so, I mean, I went to school in Boston, and I finally got to see Stevie Ray Vaughan. I remember it was like 87 or 8 or something like that. And I wanted to, I was walking down, I think it's Boylston Street in Boston, and I saw the Orpheum Theater, and I saw this bus out front, and it had a Gibson Les Paul and a Fender Strat crossed on the side of it. I said, oh, geez, guitar, I wonder who's playing. And I had been listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan. My brother-in-law at the time was giving me these tapes of Texas Flood. And I'd be riding around, on my little motorcycle or whatever with my little earphones on, and I'd listen to Stevie. And then I see this name on the marquee. It said Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. And I was like, that's the guy I'm listening to. I got to go. I'm going to go get somebody to go with me. And I went back to the dorm, and I was like trying to get all my friends to go. And everybody's like, Stevie Ray, who? What are you talking about? So I went to the show by myself, and I sat and watched Stevie. He came out with a full Indian headdress on. It was that tour, just, I don't know what that tour was, but he came out, and man, did I get it. I mean, I had no idea anyone could touch a guitar like that. I mean,
Yeah, I saw him play once. I could not believe how big his hands were, because he
yeah,
wasn't big in stature, but his hands were tremendous.
Big hands help on the guitar.
Oh yeah, let's show the folks your progression from the time we've been talking about, and play a couple of tunes off this new album 10. We're going to start at the very top. We're going to play a couple, Need Somebody, and the one you wrote for me, Too Old to Grow Up. I've been telling everybody, I've been playing that song. Hey, Albert wrote that for me.
Especially that's right.
Oh, we're having fun on Smokin' Bluz with Albert Cummings. We're going to play two off of his album that was released this Friday, April the 8th. The album is entitled 10. This is Need Somebody and Too Old to Grow Up on Smokin' Bluz. Oh, this is fun, buddy. This is fun. You're easy to talk with.
Yeah. Well, that's
all right, here we go.
You just raise your hand, point at me and tell me to shut up. It's fine.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. This is what we want. All right, welcome back to Smokin' Bluz. Having a great conversation with my longtime buddy, Albert Cummings. His new album is entitled 10, and those two songs were Too Old to Grow Up and Need Somebody. Albert was talking to us earlier about his education in music and his father and the people that were around his father that influenced him. What other bands were you listening to as a youngster? I'm a Beatles era kid. I grew up in the 60s, so we got the greatest music that was ever done, 60s and 70s. So those were my influences, especially the Stones that were playing blues. I really, really liked that as a young kid and didn't really understand that it was American music to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I came from the country end because my father was like I work with him all the time with either kid his summers or working after school or whatever. And, in a little carpentry shop, and the only channel you could put on is the country channel. That's it. You couldn't put anything else on. And I remember being a senior in high school, and I remember a girl making fun of me, a friend of mine, because I didn't know who Eric Clapton was. And that's true. I was a senior, so I'm like 17 years old. I don't know who Eric Clapton is at this point.
Wow.
I'm way late starting the whole game. And so I remember hearing Hank Williams Jr., All My Rowdy Friends Are Coming Over Tonight. I remember that song. I was like, that was the first thing I heard. I mean, when I first heard Stevie was like the first one that grabbed me by the collar and was like, you listen to what I'm playing you. And it literally was stop you right in the tracks and be like, okay, this man has something to say and I want to hear it.
Yep.
And when he came out with that, I was like, yeah, that's like, it's just that it's kind of what I do now. It's that same rock and country blues stuff that I'm into, it's the beginnings of it. It's fun.
Well, one of the songs we play, one of your older songs, is a Merle Haggard standard, Working Man Blues.
Yeah, Working Man.
So
yeah, Merle.
I said this guy's got some influences that are deeper than just the blues and the rock. You got some Merle, and I hear that tuning, that Merle Haggard tuning in a couple of these songs on 10. So I'm going, okay, he's still got a little Haggard in him, and that's not a bad thing.
All the Merle Haggard stuff that's Red Volkart mostly on guitar. I don't know if you ever heard of Red, but he's from Austin, Texas.
Right.
I think he's probably one of the greatest guitar players that's ever lived. I mean, that guy is like, forget it. I mean, as far as that, especially country licks, but that country swing. I mean, I've gone to 2 shows and watched Red when I'm in Austin, and I watch him play, and it's literally, he's talking a different language. He's so advanced. He's like I was when I was a kid watching my father's friends. At the level that I'm at now, whatever that may be, you watch Red play, and he's, yeah. So I love guys like that. But anyways, back to you, Bob. We were like, so Hank Williams Jr., definitely Merle was in there. And then Waylon was in there big time. Waylon was always, I love Waylon. I mean, I think Waylon was the first show I ever went to see somebody play. I saw Waylon. And
When did you become influenced by the blues? When did you say, okay, I want to move this blues sound into what I'm doing?
When I was 27.
27. Wow.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm like, this is I still whaling when I'm like probably 16, 15, I think I was exactly 15 because I remember my friend just got his learner's permit. My father let him drive. And I remember him pulling the hood release instead of the emergency brake because it was his first time driving. I remember as a kid, you remember that stuff. And so that was coming home from a whaling show that my father took us to. And
what happened at 27 that made you go to the blues?
Well, it was like, so all these things were in me, right? And Stray Cats started to come in there too. Brian Setzer came in, and I mean, Stray Cat Strut and all that stuff. There's a Rumble tonight and Brighton tonight, all that stuff. I mean, I someday want to meet Brian Setzer, man. That guy is so influential.
That whole band, Lee Rocker, and they were incredible.
And that music, and they did it as a trio. It was like, oh my God, it's just so powerful. It's like there's so much power in that when there's that. Only human beings could do that, but not all human beings can do it. It's like, those three guys together were perfect.
Their sound of swing and a little rockabilly.
Right.
It just captured me, man. I loved everything about it.
So, I kind of stayed right in there. I'm like all these years, I get out of college. I got married. I got, here I am. I'm 27 years old. A buddy of mine's getting married. I have literally been dubbing around with guitar for all those years, never advanced myself. I didn't know how to do a tremolo on the guitar. I remember the day that I figured that out, like a BB King tremolo where you shake your hand, on the string. And I didn't know any of that stuff. I'm 27 years old. There's a band from New York City. I wish I could remember the name of it. I doubt it's around still, but anyways, they were playing at the reception. And I mean, we were having a great time, and everybody's, enjoying the band. And somebody yells out, "Hey, Albert, why don't you play with the band or something?" And I'm like, "Oh, no way." There's, I've never played with a band until this point. I'd never played with a band. So I said no. Well, finally they went up and told the band that I was going to play, that I had agreed to play, but I didn't. So the band calls me up. And I'm scared out of my wits. I'm like, I don't know what the heck to do. So I think we did Johnny Be Good, really.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still can't play Johnny Be Good like Chuck Berry. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not going to sit and learn these licks, and I could come close to it probably. But I played Johnny Be Good, and I can remember halfway into that song, like feeling it, Rick. I could feel this something was grabbing a hold of me that I'd never experienced in my life. And I think a quote Muhammad Ali had, he said, "I always know when I know." That was one of his quotes. I love that quote. And man, I knew something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was there and around that guitar. So I went home, and it turned out that another guy that was at the same party that I was at, that I didn't know at the time, his name was Phil. He got up and played piano at the same time that I got up, but I hardly even knew that he was getting up because I was so scared. And, anyways, I knew it. I saw him over there, but I didn't know him. I didn't know if he was in the band or not, but he came off and we started talking. He said, "Hey, I play guitar too." He said, You want to get together once in a while? We'll play guitar. I said, "Geez, that'd be kind of fun. I've never done that." Again, 27 years old. And we got together once a week, and we did that for about a year. And somebody came and said, "Hey, we got a party coming up and we need a band." And Phil and I were like, "Well, we're not a band. We just jam on stuff, And I remember we'd teach each other things of what we knew. We were both very beginning at that point. And they said, "Well, can you find a drummer or something and make a band? Can you guys put on a gig?" And we were like, "Yeah, why not? Why not?" So we did. And lo and behold, people loved it, right? So now we go to the next one. And it's funny, my drummer, the first drummer I had was my 9th grade English teacher. told anybody that before. It just came to me right there. Yeah. So he was older, and he was into like the band, and he'd love to sing like Cripple Creek. I remember, and I was, it was all learning for me, so it was all like fun, and we started doing a few gigs here and there, and then I get a call. I got one of my first big gigs was opening for Kansas.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's a big gig.
And to top it off, here's one for you. I didn't really know who Kansas was. I'm
Albert.
27. Yeah. So, I live out, we just basically got running water out here a little while ago. So, yeah.
That's what people say about the South.
Yeah.
I mean, we get that all the time.
Yeah. No, so yeah, and then it went from there. And then, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward another 20 years.
Here we are at album number 10 now.
Yeah.
Debuted this past Friday, April the 8th. We're sitting here with Albert Cummings. We're talking about how he grew up learning music and finding out some surprises about you, which are very, very interesting. Let's do another couple off of your album 10. We're going to do Hard Way and Last Call for Alcohol. You asked me the other day which one was my favorite on the album. That one's running pretty close because the lyrics in this thing are fabulous. I really like them, the way you express closing time. We got no more for you. Get out of here.
That's Vince Gill singing
We're
harmony.
having fun on Smokin' Bluz with Albert Cummings. Here are two more songs off the album 10, Hard Way and Last Call for Alcohol on Smokin' Bluz. All right, buddy, this is going real well. We're going to do one more break, and then we'll be done, and we're going to play the whole album when we're not talking. So everybody's going to get to hear the album.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you so much,
buddy. I'm excited for you. I really am. This album's really good. I can't wait for you to come back to Charlotte. Last time you came to Charlotte, I didn't know it until after the fact. You played at one of the breweries here, and I'm going, dadgummit, Albert was here, and I didn't even know it. So I've got your phone number now. I got your tour schedule. I'm going to bug you next time you come to Charlotte. Oh.
Well, last call for. Oh, you're going to do the intro, right?
Yeah. Wrapping up two more from the album 10 by Albert Cummings, brand new, released this week on the 8th. Let's talk about Last Call for Alcohol. We talked about it before we played it. Tell me about it.
Well, I actually wrote that on a plane. Yeah, and I had that idea in my head. I mean, I've never heard that phrase before. I don't know if you have, but no. I go
no.
They stay in a bar late at night.
No, never have. I've heard it as they're kicking me in the butt, getting me out the door.
What's the first thing you do once you get that last call? You're like, where's the next? Who's open late?
Yeah.
So you listen to the song. It's pretty much every night. Anybody going out? That's like, it's just a simple song. I wrote it down. I didn't think much of it. But when I got to Nashville, I knew I wanted to do that song. And then Vince Gill asked, to be on the record, and it's like, he picked it. He said, send me a couple that I'd fit on a high part, because he wanted to sing harmony. And Vince got his start like singing harmony for Conway Twitty and stuff.
Yeah,
that's what's so cool. And like he puts his harmony on that thing. And
so Vince Gill is singing the song with you. He's the backup harmony.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Oh,
and he's a heck of a guitar player in his own right.
The monster. He's like that. People don't even talk about that. I mean, there's so many good guitar players out there. It's kind of like, man, I hardly even consider myself a guitar player. You know what I mean? Because I look at guys like that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. This guy is like, I think he's just gifted on guitar as he is on all of his other talents.
Oh, he's blessed.
All the other instruments too. He's just phenomenal. He's a phenomenal talent.
Didn't he do some backup harmonies with Pure Prairie League back in the day?
Band, yeah, that was his first band.
Yeah.
It was his first band, but it was one of his early bands.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the tallest one in the band. That's how you knew it was Vince. He was taller than everybody.
I got to tell you a funny story. We did this album. You know, Chuck Ainley is the producer. Chuck is like, I think he's like music royalty in Nashville. If you ask anybody that's in the scene about Chuck Ainley, they'll know Chuck. If they don't know Chuck, they're not really in the scene. I mean, literally, he's that big in that mecca down there. And Chuck says, "Yeah, Albert, yeah, we're going to do this record. And we're going to." He takes me to Peter Frampton's private studio. You know, that's where we record the album. And I remember sitting in like, I don't know, it was like day 2, 3, something like that. I'm standing in the studio and I'm looking at Peter's guitars on the walls, right? It's like, and you know, the drums are set up. We're in the main room of the studio. And, you know, it's just an awe to sit and look at Peter Frampton's guitars. I mean, you don't even have to be a guitar player to be, you know,
in awe.
It's Peter Frampton,
yeah.
You know, and my phone rings and I pick it up and it's Vince Gill, right? And I remember telling Vince on the phone, I said, "Vince, I'm standing in Peter Frampton's studio and I'm looking at his Gibson SG that he used on Humble Pie. And I'm talking to Vince Gill." And he says, "Watch what you wish for, buddy." I mean, all those guys, I mean, everybody, you know, Greg Morrow, you know, he asked me who, Vince said on that phone, he says, "Who you got playing on the album, Albert?" And I said, "Oh, Greg Morrow's on drums. Glenn Worf's on bass. Michael Rojas is on keyboards and piano. And Rob McNally's on guitar." And he said, "Albert, you got the best players in Nashville right there."
Whoa.
I said, "Yeah, he's and that's what Chuck did. You know, Chuck brought me into that studio, brought this Yankee down there." I can say that for your listeners, right? Because that's what they're all thinking.
Absolutely. We got them all over the world, so you can be whatever you want.
But he brought me down there and he sat everybody the first day everybody showed up, and he said, "All right, guys," he said, that our main mission here is to give Albert something he's never had. And I mean, he certainly did. I've never been so proud of a record in my whole life. And I've never had an experience like that. I've done some really good records and worked with some great producers, and they're all fabulous. But Chuck had a different way of pulling out the inner Albert. Like, you know, it's almost like counseling. Like, it's okay to let that out, Albert. You know, let's talk. Let's do this song. It was literally like that. It was a little bit of a thing because, you know, it's hard enough to get traction when you're doing everything that the critics want you to do. You know what I mean? But you're just throwing in your own. Oh, you want to be your own self and you want to be unique. You know, as everybody's got to compare you to something, and I just want to be me. My favorite quote is, "Be yourself because everybody else is taken."
Yeah.
Period. I live by it.
That's a great quote to kind of end our conversation on. I want to encourage the people to go online, tell them how they can go online and get this album 10.
Well, you can get it just about any outlet there is. I mean, all the online outlets, I think, you know, Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, all of them, it's all there. You can always go to albertcummings.com if you want to see where I'm going and all that stuff.
Do you sell the album from your site, albertcummings.com?
I think there's at least a link there.
Okay.
I mean, we'll try to run it all through one spot so it's recorded properly, so they can tell where it's being, you know, what's happening with it. But yeah, I'm sure there's something on there. I should know that, right, Rick?
All right, folks. We've had a good time. Had a good time talking with Albert Cummings and learned a little history about you. I learned some stuff I did not know about you, and it's just fantastic. Folks, please go out, put this album in your collection. It's entitled 10. We're going to wrap up the show and just play the album for you, and we're going to start with Beautiful Bride. I know you've got a story about that one.
I do. That's like that backs up. You know, I said at age 27, I never played with a band. Well, I got married when I was 21. And that was one of the first songs that I had ever written.
Wow.
And I sang that song at my wedding reception for my wife. And I knew that song was special because even the guys were crying. Everybody was, you know, the whole place was in tears. And I was scared out of my wits. And luckily everybody's crying. So it took my nervousness away because I'm like, why the hell is everybody crying? And that's the song, And then I recorded that with Double Trouble, and Reese and I just did it together. Reese would just follow me with keys, and I recorded. And I always wanted it to sound bigger, and I always wanted it to do right. And I always said, someday I'm going to record that song. And I knew when I got to Nashville and I had that cast of players that this was the time for it. And I mean, that's a beautiful song, and I hope there's a lot of people that'll find that song, fitting or whatever. I hope it helps and touches people like it does me.
It may become the new wedding song. You never know. You just never know.
That would not hurt my feelings, Fred.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a great time with Albert Cummings. Albert, once again, I want to thank you for your time. We're going to spend the rest of this hour playing tunes off this album, and we're going to start with Beautiful Bride on Smokin' Bluz. Buddy, this was fun. I need one more thing from you.
All right.
Hi, this is Albert Cummings, and you're listening to Smokin' Bluz with Rick Ballew. Anytime.
All right. Hey, everybody, this is Albert Cummings. You are listening to Smokin' Bluz with the Mr. Rick Ballew. What would we call you?
That's good. That's good. I'll take the mister. I'm older than you, so you can call me mister.